Okay, welcome back to the United Pubcast, the official podcast of the Man United Supporters Club here in Sydney. Larry, last night we did about 24 hours ago, did a January transfer deadline sort of preview of the upcoming 12 hours. We woke up 12 hours later, even just hoping for a rumour of something. Not that we're expecting anything to happen, but maybe linked to the player or something big was going to happen. And just nothing. Absolutely no breaking news overnight. So we woke up a little bit disappointed. So how are you feeling this? Now that it's February, the January window is over now.
Tom, you're so negative. Hannibal, he's being promoted to the first team.
Well, that was the
United
one bit.
PR 101.
That was the one bit. I think it was maybe about an hour after we went offline after doing our show last night. And I think Samuel Luckhurst put it out via someone else, one of the Man United journalists. And as soon as they put that story out that Hannibal was going to be permanently moved to the first team training setup, that for me was confirmation that Manchester United weren't signing anyone. I went to bed thinking, there's no chance United sign. If they put that story out, they've put that story out for one reason, and that is deflect from no signings. And here we are. We can sit here and have a level-headed discussion about, okay, were the right signings out there? There's no point rushing into a decision. Like if, let's say, Zakaria was the player who Juventus wanted. If Man United and Ralph Rangnick said, no, he's not the man, obviously don't go out and spend the money on it. Obviously, there has to be a sort of level-headed sort of pair of eyes on that. But yeah, our squad did need sort of reinforcements. It did need bolstering, especially given the last 24 hours with one of our, as you say, our third highest goal scorer. So a pretty important member of the team, him going away. Anthony Martial, who I wouldn't say found a bit of form, but obviously looked decent against West Ham when he came on. He's gone out the door. Donny van der Beek has gone out the door with, I don't want to use forced in the sort of in a bad way, but we've forced Jesse Lingard to stay, who doesn't want to be at the club. I just think January is a time where you should be strengthening your squad. It's not the time to be weakening your squad. And whatever you think of players' contributions who have left, ultimately, we have weakened our squad in January. Now, we had a weak squad already. Weakening it's not going to help the end of the season, in my opinion.
I take your point. I think United had a very bloated squad. So I had no issue with one or two players going out. I think Jesse Lingard, he's played less than 100 Premier League minutes so far this season, Tom. So I think if you look at the Englishman, if he was the one who actually ended up leaving, I don't think you're going to hear too many qualms out of the Manchester United fan base. That being said, I absolutely take your point. The Martial one is the one for me. That one looks a little bit, I don't want to say poor, just it comes across as ill times now. Now, of course, Manchester United couldn't have prepared for what happened with Mason Greenwood, but it's just a really unfortunate amount of circumstances. I think if the Mason Greenwood situation unfolded at the start of January, I imagine the Frenchman will still be at Manchester. It's just one of those unfortunate matters.
Do you think that's why a lot of clubs... Yeah, no, I agree. But do you think that is why a lot of clubs, you look at a transfer window and we'll isolate January here and we say, hang on, you've got 31 days to do this business. Why does every club just wait until the last couple of hours? And do you think that situation, now that's the Mason Greenwood situation, is extremely unique, but do you think that is why clubs just sort of hold off because you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what other clubs are going to do, and you just have to sort of assess the situation at the end of the window? Do you think that's why? Because that Anthony Martial, at the time that deal was done, we all sat here and said, yeah, Martial he wants to leave. Good bit of business, let him go. Now, 2 weeks later, at the end of the January transfer window, we're looking, hang on, we could be doing with Anthony Martial, and you could argue that it's a bad piece of business.
I don't think so. I mean, we've spoken to Mark Bosnich about this. The reality is when there's transfers, it'll come down to, it's a negotiation tactic. When you're approaching the end of the window, if Manchester United were still being stubborn, for example, if you're Sevilla, you're hoping Manchester United lower their demands. And if you're Manchester United, you're hoping Sevilla are more desperate. They're suddenly willing to pay that little bit more to get the player. It's always a game of cat and mouse when it comes to negotiation. And I think that's why you see a lot of business happen on deadline day or, in the hours leading up to the deadline. It's just a matter of desperation. You're seeing Newcastle, they've paid a ridiculous amount for with all due respect, yes, a Brazilian international. You look at him, though. Is he a Premier League player? That Bruno gentleman, mate, I don't know. It's a little bit desperate, but they are desperate. And that's what it comes down to. They're fighting for survival. So you can see why a club like Newcastle has suddenly budged in the transfer market. It's really unfortunate in United circumstances. I completely agree that it's a missed opportunity when you're looking at our midfield. And that's where the Donny one comes a little bit weird to me. I don't see our midfield flush with depth, let alone quality. So a bit of a difficult one. In saying that, assuming everyone stays fit, I don't think Donny will be missed too much.
We'll see. We'll have to see who Everton are playing this week, or are they still in the FA Cup? I'm not sure.
Tom, what am I talking about? We've re-signed Paul Pogba for the 5th time in his tenure.
He's like a new signing. Well, I want to go back into our only sign of the day, which we did discuss when we opened the podcast in Hannibal. I just really do want to talk about Hannibal, but there are some legends in the live chat. We'll just say good day to. I forgot to say good day. Very rude of me, but Josh, good to see you. Matt from the Supporters Club, hope you're well. Let us know if you're going to be there on Saturday morning, Matt and Josh, for the FA Cup. I was about to say the FA Cup final, I wish, but the FA Cup final against Middlesbrough. The football capital, deadline day, and obviously the emphasis on dead in regards to nothing at all happening. Dion, good to see you. Mike, as always, appreciate the support. Dion, just in regards to what we're talking about earlier, in regards to the way the club is run, no surprises or shocks there. Wes, good to see you, mate. And George here with, look at this, Larry, just rattles off the names. G'day, lads. In the summer, how many players would we need if Van der Beek, Lingard, Martial, Pogba, Greenwood, Bailly, Cavani, Mata, Henderson all leave? And you look at those names, that's very real. That looks like something you'd see on FIFA or Football Manager. You say, no, that's not realistic. But if you do look at those names and those situations, that's very realistic. That how many players were in that? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 players are very likely going to leave. We're not going to sign 10 footballers, are we? I don't see how that situation... Look at the situation we find ourselves in. Well, we're very likely going to lose those 10 players. We're not signing 10 players. So
we also do have some very good players out on loan. It has to be said. I think Teden Mengi has a future as a Manchester United defender. Now, whether he becomes a regular in the first team is another story. But I think Teden Mengi has replaced what Tuanzebe was a couple of years ago. I think Tuanzebe is probably likely to leave, who, again, is on loan. You got James Garner, who's, I think, a really good opportunity to become part of the squad next season, particularly looking at the midfield. Who else do we have out on loan? Look, Chong, I think's one of the ones who will eventually leave.
We play this in our mind, though. We play all these names. We see all these players and we see their strengths. We see what they could potentially sort of turn into. But ultimately, as I said, in terms of the youth players who come through, it's a very rare occasion where a youth player comes through. So here we're playing this game. Ideally, Mengi will come through. He'll have a career. James Garner will impact. There's a very strong possibility that simply won't happen.
Well, they'll get opportunities to be part of the squad. Now, whether they embed themselves into the squad is simply up to them and how well they perform in training and in the preseason. I think Ethan Laird is the one, and I know we had a bit of a debate in our own little football chat, but Ethan Laird's the one. I look at the players on loan. I think he's basically a shoe-in to come part of this squad next season. He's not just performing in the championship. He's dominating in the championship. He's a good player. He's performing well. He was absolutely killing it. Who was he on loan with? Was it Bournemouth? Was it Bournemouth? I know he's at
Dons.
Swansea. No, sorry, he was at Swansea.
Yeah, Swansea.
He was at Swansea, and now he's gone to Bournemouth. And he's absolutely killing it. He's had a great season. James Garner, look, I will admit I haven't seen a whole heap of him. When I have seen him, he's looked good without being absolutely brilliant. But he plays against Arsenal a few weeks ago. He was the best midfielder on the pitch. So I think there's a few hope for a few of those loanees. I don't think we signed 10 players, Tom, but I think you'll see the promotion of a few youth players into the first team squad.
On the promotion of youth players, and we sort of joked about at the start of the podcast in regards to Hannibal. Now, his name's been in the press in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, went away to the African Cup of Nations with Tunisia. And I think he played in the Arab Cup, which is like a bit of a smaller tournament in the build-up to that. So he's got a bit of senior football under his belt in the past 2 months, which is great. Man United came out with their PR spin that he's like a new signing and he's going to be sort of the saviour to the season and he's going to come in and train with the first team, which for Manchester United fans, we're excited about. Obviously, that's a good thing. We do want to see these young players come through. And given the state of some of our issues in the squad, he'll be a welcomed addition. Let him come in, see what he's made of. That is what Manchester United is about. In my opinion, he's not going to play. We're going to buy the idea that he's going to come in and Ralph Rangnick is going to give him minutes. And yes, maybe Ralph Rangnick is a manager who will give a young player a few minutes. However, in my opinion, he's already given those minutes to Elanga. There are some other young players in the squad. I have a feeling he's going to be on the bench because obviously not on the bench. We have such a small squad now after the January transfer window. And then obviously he'll get a couple of minutes here or there.
Yeah,
I just don't think I'd love to see him play. I just don't see how he fits in because it's cutthroat now. Ralph Rangnick every week is going to be a cup final.
Forbidding an unfortunate run of injuries, I agree with you. I don't think Hannibal plays too much. You know what? I would not be shocked if he gets some minutes against Middlesbrough. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets some minutes against Middlesbrough if we're in a good position in terms of the game. But I'm with you, Tom. He won't be playing a lot of football. The Hannibal press or the release, if you like, unofficial release, a lot of it's PR. We know that. We knew United weren't going to sign anyone. And that talk was always going to ram up. Look, I hope he's a good kid. He's got talent. I hope he takes his opportunities. But in saying that, we just have to wait and see what happens.
What do you think of this? And obviously, this is usually the show is called Friday Night Pint. It's on a Friday, but in terms of the way the schedules have worked this week, Friday night, if we record, then that's only a few hours before we play Middlesbrough. So we've changed the Friday Night Pint this week to the Tuesday Night Pint. But so anything goes, whatever sort of comes up in the live chat, we'll discuss. Hopefully, it's all football related. But so we'll just go off the live chat and bounce ideas off each other, and we'll look around the grounds. If then any other Man United news, we'll obviously touch on. But Amad's just brought a point up here, which I want to discuss with you, Larry, in regards to we're talking about the youth players. This idea of play the kids, try and reincarnate the class of 92 needs to be squashed. Those days are dead and buried, which there's a part of it I couldn't agree more, but I also disagree. I'm firmly in the middle. Yes, you do need to look past, and yes, if you look at the facts, yes, those days are gone. That was a very unique situation. Only's done it Man United 92, and you could argue maybe Barcelona in that sort of 06 to 012 period type thing. So very rarely does it happen. So yes, you do need to look more realistic and more strategically in how to sort of build a team and how to develop youth players. Yeah. However, we're going to talk this later this week in regards to Munich and sort of the DNA of Manchester United and the history and the values. It is something Manchester United at least have to strive to do. Now, it's not to say put all your eggs in that basket and just hope that happens, but it is something I think Manchester United need to strive to do. Maybe not bring 7 or 8 players through all at once, but I think we need to be at least bringing 1 player, if not 2 players, giving them the opportunity every season.
Well, I think United do that. If I think back, Mason Greenwood got promoted. I'm not going to count the season Ollie came in as a caretaker. I'm not going to count that season, but we saw Mason Greenwood really integrated into the first team in Ollie's first. In this kit, Mason Greenwood was fully integrated into the side. The year after that, who did we have last season? There definitely was someone. So Dean Henderson, obviously, I know it's a bit different. He played at Sheffield United, but he was still integrated into the side. And this season, you've seen a Lingard come through. So I think United do that really well. I take what Emad's saying, but no one's sitting here, Emad, and telling you United should stop making transfers and rely solely on the kids. I think it's a balance, but we've got a standing record since 1947. Is it 1947? 1947?
I think it's 34. 30, I think it might be 1934. Someone in the live chat will know.
A very long-standing tradition of a youth team player always in the squad. That is Manchester United. I would be a very sad man the day that record ends.
Do you think, and look, that record and in terms of the club, the values and the core, that will always stay. However, do you think we not overestimate it? That we all look back at Sir Alex Ferguson and look past 92 in that early stage, but Ferguson was then on Manchester United for another 20 years.
Thank you, George. 1938.
1938. I was a year off. 4 years off, sorry. But I look at it and was Man United, do we overestimate Ferguson the way he introduced youth players? Because take away after that class of 92, look at the players who really came through and had a career. Obviously, players came through and sort of had a good football career somewhere through Manchester United. But if you do look at the names after 92, you're looking at Wes Brown.
Can we name them? I'm trying to think.
Wes Brown had a good career.
Brown, absolutely.
John O'Shea had a good career, and Darren Fletcher. Yeah. Other than that, like young players did come through and do well where they'll be assigned, and he did develop players very well. But it wasn't after that class.
Tom Cleverley came through.
But did he have a career at Man United? Yes, he did come in and win a league title.
He won a Premier League title.
Yeah, no doubt. But you look at that class of 92, they all went on to become club legends. You could argue Marcus Rashford coming through now, potentially go on to be a club legend. Other than that, after the 92, no one, John O'Shea, Wes Brown and Darren Fletcher, they're in the highest regard for me. That it just goes back to the point of it very rarely happens.
Yeah, of course it does. But I think that should always be the goal. You know what I mean? You have a youth academy. You put in all. I would hate United to be. I think it was Huddersfield. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I'm 99% sure. Huddersfield abandoned their academy. They basically discontinued it. They said, nope, forget it. There's no money in this. We're not bringing kids through. We'll just go to the transfer market. Like, I just think that is the saddest thing. I think every football club should strive. If you can, it'll never happen. If you can be in a position where all 11 starting players are your own, that's the best thing. Because all those players, you'll never question their commitment. They would have been brought up into the Manchester United DNA, truthfully. Being brought up in the club, more than likely supported the club. And as a fan, that is so easy to get behind. Why do you think people are so divided on the Marcus Rashford-Martial debate all these years? We know who the better footballer is. There's no debate. Rashford's the one who always gets the backing because he's a Manc born and bred, like the chant said. And that's something you get behind as a football fan. It should always be the goal, even if we never achieve it.
Yeah. Well, there's one or two sort of Man United topics I want to get into in a little bit, but there's a question here from Dion. I have a question. Anyone think in 3 or 4 years' time the league could devolve into a shootout between City and Newcastle? So I just want to sort of that's a separate debate. Just almost focus on the last bit of that. In Newcastle, Manchester United weren't busy. We all expected Newcastle to be busy, but it all kicked off in the last 48 hours. They were sort of obviously the banter signings are around there at the start in terms of they're going to go for Mbappe and Haaland. Obviously, just sort of memes on Twitter. But obviously, they did sort of get the checkbook out late. And it's weird I don't have a list of signings in front of me in the live chat. Let us know what you think of Newcastle's late business. Now, obviously, it's not
Kieran Trippier, Chris Wood.
The Bruno guy from Lyon.
Yeah, Bruno from Lyon.
What did you think of that Bruno? Did you see his announcement video? Did you see that?
No.
He had
I saw the outrage.
They have these announcement videos, Man United are famous for them. And he's there, and I forget if he's looking through a newspaper or there's a newspaper flickering with all these headlines. And there's all these headlines about Bruno linked with Arsenal or Arsenal failed to sign him. And I'm just thinking, look, very good bit of banter. If you're a Newcastle fan or if you're a Man United fan against Arsenal, it would be funny. But I just think, is that banter? Like is that in poor taste by Newcastle, or is it like
they're on the verge of getting relegated? Like, I'm all for bantering Arsenal, but like seriously, you're fighting for relegation. Know your place. You know what I mean? I just thought that's quite poor.
No, I was mixed on it. Like, it was funny, but then I think, well, yeah, as you say, they could very well go down. And look, he was an actual signing. He wasn't a loan signing. So they're going to find themselves in a big hole. Whether he's got it in his contract is going to have a release clause if they go down. I'm sure that is the case. But
I'm telling you, Tom, if you're seeing the way that he plays, you could just really see him struggling with the physicality of the Premier League.
Well, it's hard. Look at our 2 best January signings ever, or arguably our best January signings ever, Patrice Evra and Nemanja Vidic. Their first 6 months when they came in after January, you're ready to send them back to the club they came from. They were woeful.
They had the bodies. They had the bodies for the Premier League. They're both, Patrice Evra, very solid figure. Nemanja Vidic would put his head through a brick wall. He'd put his head through places I wouldn't put my feet, Nemanja Vidic. So I think with this one, and, I don't, before I say anything, I can't believe I even have to say this. Brazilian players traditionally, it is a difficult transition into the Premier League. It's a very physical league. The French league clearly isn't physical. Look, good luck to him. Hope he does well. Hope they still get relegated though.
But what do you think? I don't know. Maybe someone in the live chat can tell me, or if you do have the list, you rattle off a few names there. They did bring a lot of bodies in, and obviously they're in that situation. They had to. They sort of do have to gamble. But is there a case now of the signings they have brought in terms of for money? They're going to have to play. They're not going to do a Man United and spend 30 million. Donny van de Beek and sit him on the bench. They're going to play the players that they bought. Too much too soon in terms of trying to integrate them all into a must-win situation.
Look, I think with Newcastle, they had no choice. Ultimately, if you leave it the way it was, they were going down. There's no 2 ways about it. I think with Newcastle, where this differs from City, and I'm going to bring this back to Dion's question, in 3-4 years, will we be seeing a shootout between Manchester City and Newcastle? I think it'll take Newcastle a bit longer. And the reason I say that is Manchester City were already solid Premier League team by the time Sheikh Mansour bought them. The difference here is Newcastle are fighting for relegation. You look at those players I've just listed who they've signed. None of those players are there in a Premier League winning team. Let's be real. They're not. So they need to go through the balance now of survival. Do they survive? If they survive, maybe it obviously expedites how quickly they get to the top. But now they'll have a situation where they're not going to be able to attract the cream of the crop. So they'll get that middle range player. They'll become an Everton type side, and then after that they'll go a step higher. I think I think it'll be less than 10 years, but I think you're looking at 5 to 6 years before I think Newcastle are truthfully at the top. Because Manchester City were a solid side, and then they just went right here. When you're talking relegation where they are now, it's going to take a while.
Yeah, just a question here before I move on. There's sort of one other club I do want to touch on, then a little bit of United news. But Mike's just put in here, next season with Cavani and most certainly Greenwood gone, who do you think should be our target for our striker? And will Ronaldo, if he's still here, accept rotating through that position? I think, look, we kind of discussed that yesterday. Do you think the answer is simply Erling Haaland? Regardless of what you think of the agent, do you think United are just going out, he's the number one striker on the market, we're going to make him our number one target? Or do you think there is a Ralph Rangnick football indecision? And now, obviously, he's spoken highly of Erling Haaland, so he might be the ideal Ralph Rangnick player. But if he's not, do you think the club will... Look, I don't think the club's going to listen to Ralph Rangnick, but do you think there will be a football decision or a football strategy which sort of takes them away from Erling Haaland?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tom, and a difficult one to answer. Look, the perspective I came from yesterday was what I think United will do. If I'm being entirely honest, I might get criticized for this, but it wouldn't be the first time on here. I personally am not a massive Haaland fan. If I'm being entirely honest, I think he's a wonderful finisher. I just think while he'd probably score a lot of goals in the Premier League, hell, I'll agree with you. I think he's a better version of Lukaku. I think he becomes a flat track bully. I think he might struggle against the better sides because is he great back to goal? Not really. Is he great in the air? He's 6'10", but no, he's not. He's not great in the air. He's very much a poacher. You put the ball in front of him, he finishes. He needs to add a lot more to his game if he's going to be.
But if Manchester United do the right thing and invest properly and build a good team, we'll be a team who creates a lot of chances. So then he would be the ideal. Of course we will. But I just think that type of striker playing as a lone striker in the Premier League, I don't think it's as clear cut as he'll be successful. Like we're seeing with Lukaku, he's struggling. So I think I think in a two-striker system, I think Haaland absolutely thrives. If he was playing with a Cavani, someone who can do the back to goal and do the link-up play. But I think Haaland has a lot to add to his game before he's going to be a top. Now, he'll score a lot of goals, but for £100 million, is he ever going to? Now, the other question, and let me ask you this. Can Haaland become that player? Because for me, he'll never be a Lewandowski. He simply doesn't have the technicality to fulfill that. Yeah, we'll never know until he challenges himself. He'll be, I think, the next move, in my opinion, sadly, if I rate him or don't rate him, I don't know how I feel about it. I think he's going to end up in Manchester City. I think Pep Guardiola or Manchester City as a club will sort of look to the future beyond Pep Guardiola. I don't think he's going to be there forever, and I think Haaland will be their main man, and we'll have the answer if he can compete in the Premier League or not. There's obviously a chance that he does go to Spain, maybe Real Madrid. It'll be interesting what happens with the Mbappe situation. I just look at the goal scoring record. I look at the goal scoring record and just it is unreal. Like I just have a feel. Yes, okay, there are better players. He's maybe not the best technically gifted footballer, but you just have to look at the goals. And now he's obviously. Well, I say obviously. Who knows? Obviously, he's not going to reach Messi and Ronaldo's goal scoring record. But if you're on track at his age, at the level in the Bundesliga and the Champions League, if you're on track at his age to better their goal scoring record, you have to go. Okay, there's something about him.
Can I throw one into the abyss? I know it won't happen, but let me dare to dream. If United were deciding, look, who are the two best young footballers in Europe right now?
Well, there was a report, I think, I know the name you're going to say, and the report was yesterday that he did agree he's moved to Real Madrid.
If United were serious, we never get, if you've noticed, we never get linked with the absolute best footballers in the world. I don't know why that is. We've got the means to do it. Man, look, and he would have every right to say no. I know it's his dream to play for Real Madrid. But if you're United, you'd have to try to get Kylian.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, yes, United have to try. They have to at least have a conversation.
And if you're choosing between the two, Mbappe all day long.
No, definitely.
All day long.
Well, Imad here saying, I finally agree with Larry. I'm not a fan of Haaland. In fact, I can't stand the bloke. Do you think there is a little bit of that which maybe influences our thinking of Haaland in regards to we kind of do question not his character, but there's an aura about him, whether that's a positive or a negative. We do think of him, okay, with a footballer, but also off the pitch. He does, I don't want to say weird, but he's a little bit weird. And he's got Mino Raiola as the agent. So do you think that influences our decision or our sort of vision of him as a player?
Look, it naturally does, but look, personally, and I give this advice to anyone, watch a footballer, watch them play games. Don't watch YouTube highlights because YouTube highlights really, it doesn't give you the full picture. It will only give you the best of something. You know what? I compare it to Instagram. You only see the best of something. You see the happy couple. You see the holidays. You don't see the arguments behind closed doors. If you're going to assess a player, watch football games of them. I've watched lots of Erling Haaland over a good part of 2 years now that he's been at Dortmund. I see a wonderful finisher. I see a bang average footballer.
Well, I'm sure we'll be having that discussion because he didn't move in January. So I'm sure we'll be having plenty of Haaland discussions over the next couple of months because he's definitely leaving this season. In regards to Dortmund, we'll keep a hold of Jude Bellingham and it will be Erling Haaland. They do sell.
This is a really interesting comment by George here. I'm going to bring it up. Haaland is the only thing closest to Ruud van Nistelrooy. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think Ruud was a hell of a footballer.
I think in regards to the way you mentioned poaching and that goal scoring, I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is a far better finisher. However, in regards to what's a far better finisher, in my opinion, the aesthetically pleasing part of Ruud van Nistelrooy's finishing is 10 times better than Haaland. But if you look at Haaland's numbers, you have to argue that Haaland's a better finisher. Now, I'm not saying he's got a long way to go to reach Ruud van Nistelrooy's level, but look, he's one of those players. The world is at his feet. He could kick on and become an absolute Hall of Fame sort of level footballer.
Yeah, of
But he
course.
could also, in a couple of years, turn into a Lukaku. And
Isn't football a funny game, Tom? Like if you look at statistics, you look at numbers, who are the best finishers? Messi and Ronaldo. The numbers tell you that. But if you ask me who's the best finisher I've ever seen, Ruud van Nistelrooy.
No. We're going to be having these debates plenty of times. But if you are enjoying the content, one or two more topics, but keep the comments flying in. We do appreciate all the interaction. But look, a bit of depressing news at the start of the podcast in regards to no signings, and we're not happy with the transfer business. But there are a few things to sort of celebrate as Manchester United fans. It's a special day in the club's history. Do you know what it is today?
Tell me.
Ed Woodward's no longer employed by the club.
Woo!
Do you believe that he's not employed by the club, or do you think he's still going to be walking around somewhere collecting a wage?
I've had enough years in a corporate setting to know what a consultant is. A consultant means he would not be at the club, but they would basically engage him whenever he's needed. They'll pay him a fee. He'll come in and help out. Look, he's not the CEO anymore. I like all the... I got to be honest. Oh, man, I'm going to kill myself. This club kills me. It's the hope that kills you, Tom. I like the noises I'm hearing about Richard Arnold. I like his approach. I like that he doesn't want to be hands-on with the football department. I think that's perfect. He's got similar background. He went to university with Ed Woodward. Fun fact, if you didn't know that.
Doesn't that scare you, though?
No, not at all. I think he's his own man. And when you're a CEO, when you're talking at that level, you know it's really important to put your own blueprint on things. And I think Richard Arnold will be conscious of that, and he'll look at what can I do different. And I personally, he got criticized for this. I liked that he was reaching out to former players, asking them, what's your opinion on the club? What do you think we could do better? It's good to do that. Get all the opinions and form your own. I think that's the right thing to do. He's not going off. The easy thing to do would be, hey, I'm Ed Woodward. Hey, Richard, here's how I do things. Handing over the keys to the castle. He's his own man. I like that. Obviously, let's see how things go with him. If he's the CEO when United deliver a premiership.
How patient are we going to be with him? And now, look, he deserves a chance, 100%. However, we look at a play. If we had a new signing, would say, okay, give him the first 6 months, give him a year. We'll see how they bet in. Let them make a few mistakes, and we'll have a better picture. He's obviously, you could argue, okay, we're talking about the managers being the most important or our captain being the most important. At the end of the day, in terms of the way football is run at the moment, the CEO is arguably the most important person at the club in terms of decision-making and everything. So how patient are we going to be with him? Is our patience going to be determined by trophies and success? Or are we going to have to look at other sort of tangibles to sort of evaluate how he's doing?
I mean, let me ask you this, Tom, because personally, look, trophies are nice, but since Sir Alex has retired, we've won the FA Cup, we've won the League Cup, and we've won the Europa League. I think we're going on a 5-year drought now without a trophy.
Europa League, so Jose's first season.
Yeah, it's that 5 years. 5 years. So I know it's crazy. Time flies, but that's the thing. I think a trophy can. Oh my gosh! I just had that moment. You know when Solskjaer said something about trophies, it just hit me in the face. I was like, oh my gosh, I understand what he means now. Yeah. If United winning the Europa League, winning the League Cup, winning the FA Cup, all these things, while they feel good in isolation and they might signal progress, it might not necessarily be progress. What I want to see United do. If we see that the culture's changing, if we stop hearing these reports and leaks coming out of the dressing room, I think when you start seeing those things happen, you see the culture change, then I think, okay, Richard Arnold's got his fingers in the right pies here. He's doing something to change the culture. Maybe that's just hiring the right person who drives that. But if you hear those little things stop, success will follow. I tell you, Tom, there are so many reasons why United are not successful. And I think when United display prolonged success, then we'll be able to sit here and say, okay, actually, we're seeing it. The kids are coming through. There's a good culture. We have leaders in the football team. Season on season, the team's competitive. When all these things are suddenly lining up, and it will take time, but when those things start happening, it'll come down to the CEO. So, look, I hope good luck to him. I hope he kills it. I have my doubts, naturally, but let's see what he can do.
Yes, no, definitely. I think the most important thing he can do short term is followed through with the promises made, well, whether they're made to Ralph Rangnick or they're made to us fans. Ralph Rangnick needs to have a voice in the future of this club, whether he chooses himself to be the next manager or he goes upstairs. He's a football person. Richard Arnold can't be in the room with Matt Judge making transfer decisions. They can be in there signing the checks or ticking off the boxes, but Ralph Rangnick needs to be sitting next to them doing the talking to whoever's across the table. I think that is the crucial thing. At the end of the day, football is about fine margins. They can get everything right. They can spend big money. They can make the right decisions, and the ball could hit the crossbar, or we could get a bad refereeing decision and we don't win a trophy. They're the fine margins. So we do need to evaluate the big picture. But a comment from here, just in regards to talking about how long we've sort of been going sort of without trophies, and a little bit depressing, but Ahmad saying, are we the new Arsenal? I just want to bring Arsenal into this because as bad as our transfer window is, they've sold their captain to Barcelona. Loan or sell? I'm not sure the situation with Aubameyang. But he's at Barcelona.
Sold. Free transfer. That's insane.
So I just want to think, okay, do you want to touch on the Barcelona angle of this or the Arsenal side of this? Because this is an interesting one for so many reasons. And Barcelona as well got no money, and they're spending all this money on Adama Traore has gone to Barcelona, for God's sake.
Yeah. I mean, Barcelona have had a busy window. Have they had a successful one, though? I think that's debatable. So who have they brought in? So they've brought in Aubameyang. They've brought in Adama Traore, Ferran Torres. Ferran Torres from Manchester City. Have they
That's
brought
arguably the best signing for me. I really rate him. Now, obviously, any player can look good in the Manchester City team.
He's a weird player, isn't he? What's his best position, Ferran Torres?
He was wide for me, but Pep Guardiola actually used him almost like a false nine because simply they had no strikers. I did see him used quite sort of central at times, but that type of player suits Barcelona. Like Adama Traore, I know he is actually at Barcelona and he came through the system at Barcelona.
That's a weird signing for me.
But if you're to say, is Adama Traore a Barcelona signing, come on. Like Ferran Torres is very much a Barcelona type player. Aubameyang, it's a weird one. It's almost like, I don't want to compare him, but it's almost like when Thierry Henry went there, or it's a completely different player, but Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Very good players in their own right, but Barcelona type player, you're not quite sure. But so sometimes it takes a player like that.
Limited. He's very limited as a footballer, isn't he? Like he's again very much a player who likes to get ball to feet, run at people. He uses his pace. He's not the most technical player. And when I think of Barcelona and the way they like to play, I don't see how Aubameyang fits into that. So it'll be interesting to see. In saying that, I hope he kills it so we can laugh at Arsenal. But seriously, that you got to say Arsenal, I'm going to give some credit to him. They saw him. He was acting like an absolute clown.
Yeah,
they excluded him from the squad, and they've gotten rid of him quickly. Credit where it's due. I think
there is a case for that. Do you, and we've sat here before, whether it be Paul Pogba or Anthony Martial or maybe even the Jesse Lingard situation now, and we talk about that and sort of taking the moral high ground and sort of puffing our chest out and being the boss and saying, okay, if you don't want to be here, go away. And ultimately that very rarely happens because obviously you're going to have to cancel a contract or take a huge hit, and the financial decision makers of the club just make that an impossibility. However, Arsenal have very much done that here now. If you now look at Arsenal's squad and their strikers, Lacazette and Nketiah, their two strikers, they are really going to struggle for goals. But ultimately, so you say, okay, they've made a bad decision by getting rid of their best goal scorer and ultimately their captain. Not that he's a great captain, but they've got rid of him. But you've also got the other side of the thing where you're saying it's the right decision to get rid of him if he doesn't want to be there and he's showing a bad attitude. So it's just, where do you sit on that balancing act?
Can I be honest? I think Aubameyang is a proper bellend. Honestly. Do you recall, which game was it? Tyrone Mings. Who's Tyrone Mings play for? Aston Villa. Do you recall that footage where he was at a set piece trying to have a laugh with Tyrone Mings and Tyrone Mings is focusing on the football game and scores a goal? That's embarrassing, man. The second I saw that, I was like, this bloke is so finished.
He could fit in at United defending set pieces.
But he's just a clown. Like, if you're going to have look, you can criticize Paul Pogba, haircuts, whatever. Paul Pogba, when he's on the football pitch, focuses on football. When you're having a laugh during the game, you're a captain. Like, he's a disgrace, mate. Seriously. You got to get rid of people like that. You can't have that around the club. What does that do for a young player if your captain is doing that?
There's a curse at Arsenal in regards to their captaincies. Whoever they give the captain's armband to, they're off in 6 months' time. It's we moan and rightly so in regards to our captain situation and our lack of leaders. But have a look at it, and look, we're in no position at the moment. Well, we are because I think we're above Arsenal in the ladder, so we are in a position to have a bit of fun at Arsenal. But overall, we are not because we're an absolute mess ourselves. But we're going to take the opportunity when it sort of presents itself, and whoever gets the armband at Arsenal, that's struggle street for them.
Sorry, I'm too busy laughing at Dion's comment. The Fui Fui Moi Moi of wingers. Do you know who Fui Fui Moi Moi is?
I remember, did he play, test my knowledge, Parramatta Eels in the rugby league?
Yeah, he was.
I remember the name.
Thick body, man. Yeah.
He's talking about Adama Traore, is he?
Yeah.
Actually,
Oh,
wasn't it like
that's
similar kind of hair as well? I saw that
Fui
meme.
Moi, man. No one runs the ball back harder. That bloke. Every time he ran the ball into the defense, you hold your breath.
I
He
saw
ran
that
hard.
meme. I don't have it in front of me. I'll put it up on the screen if it was, but there's a photo of Homer Simpson. Simpson? I should not know my own last name. Homer Simpson. And he's there and talking about he's got all these baby oil bottles. He's walked into the room. What are we going to do with 100 sort of baby oil bottles now that Adama Traore's gone? Because if you take away those shiny arms, are we talking about Adama Traore as a player? Because there's quick players. Dan James is a quick player. Dan James is a quick player. There's other quick wingers. We talk about Adama Traore because the way he visually looks, the way he sort of stands out in terms of the shiny arms, the big bulky legs. Other than that, in terms of end product, there's nothing really there.
That's the killer for him. But I also think this is why clubs like Barcelona will take a punt on him. I mean, he's not old. I think he's 25, 26 years of age. So he's not a kid, but you'd hope with a bit of coaching. And look, again, it's the hope that kills you. With Adama, when you look at his dribble, like one-on-one dribbling, he's elite in terms of world football. No one beats players more by dribbling than Adama Traore in world football. So there's something there. If you can get something out of him, if you can deploy him centrally or get him into goal-scoring situations, give him a bit of technique. Look, if you can dribble past someone, I think that's it's more difficult to teach someone how to dribble past someone than it is to teach someone to shoot for the corners, right? If you can get that element, and look, I know I'm simplifying football to a massive level here, but I can understand why a coach like Xavi might take a punt on him and say, if I can get some level of end product out of this guy, work on his finishing, I know he can beat players one-on-one. So there's a little bit of hope there. And look, Barcelona, the way they play football, he'll be working on that every day. Maybe we'll be here eating our words in 6 months' time. Only time will tell. But I'm with you. Look, he's got poor end products, but I can understand why a coach will take a punt on him. Dan James has nothing about him. He can't dribble past anyone. Traore's at least got that in his locker.
When you talk about Barcelona there, I was thinking is when he could come back to sort of bite us in the backside, and I'm thinking who have Barcelona got in the Champions League? I'm thinking maybe hopefully we don't get them, but then I reminded Barcelona are obviously in the Europa League. Weird situation, which George brings up here. Barcelona standards have dropped so much. If they have 2 or 3 of Middlesbrough's front three from 2017, they've got other players up there as well. Then there was a situation last year who was a Braithwaite, and he was the other Barcelona player as well. I forget who it was. I'm sure George knows in the comment, but it was a weird combination.
Traore was at Middlesbrough.
But was Braithwaite at Middlesbrough?
Yeah, they play together. That's what that comment's about.
Oh, I thought two of the 3. Okay, George, I misread your comment. I got it now. But but there was one other player last year. Was it De Jong? I forget where he used to play. Was it Ajax or not sure where he was? Yeah, but enough about Barcelona. They're a Europa League club. We can talk about Manchester United. Anything else on Manchester United before we do wrap up? Because we did touch on obviously new signing in Hannibal, new signing in Pogba. Jesse Lingard forced to stay on, and he'll get his day release every weekend.
Should we talk about the game?
There's a game?
Yeah, on Saturday.
Oh, well, I'm sure we'll discuss that. I'm sure we'll go back live on Thursday or something. But is there anything you do want to sort of look ahead to before that kickoff on Saturday morning, Sydney time?
Any surprises you think? We'll obviously do a full lineup and do a full match preview, but any surprises you think for that game?
There'll be, I'd say, 1 or 2 changes. It's always weird coming up sort of back after an international break and thinking, okay, what are the changes going to be? I couldn't for the life of me tell you what our starting 11 was against West Ham. It feels like it was 3 weeks ago. So I think there will be not so much changes, but it won't be the full strength team that plays our next Premier League game the week after or the couple of days after. It won't be full strength. So whether that means Ronaldo's on the bench, there may be a possibility of that. But in saying that, I assume Cavani was away in South America. Maybe he wasn't. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. But I have a feeling that Ronaldo potentially, but then who do you play up front? Because obviously one of our strikers is definitely not going to be available for the foreseeable future. My hope says Juan Mata comes back in somewhere because obviously Donny van der Beek's not going to be optional. I don't want to see Jesse Lingard playing football for Manchester United at the moment. So in my opinion, the person behind, maybe I'll put Hannibal in there in terms of trying to get him minutes behind Bruno. If Bruno gets injured, maybe Hannibal's the next in line. But in my opinion, it would be Juan Mata. So I'd like to see Juan Mata get a run. Midfield situation, probably the time to get Nemanja Matic some minutes and get him back. And Dion here, just in regards to the name we've all forgotten about. But yeah, Paul Pogba probably has to start this match, I assume.
Yeah, for sure.
Thinking about it now, he's got to be almost first name on the sheet for me.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited by the prospect, and I guess this is something we can talk about now. Sorry, guys, I got time on a Tuesday night here. I am excited. Do you think we finally see Bruno and Paul Pogba deployed together in a 4-3-3? We haven't seen it yet. It's been 2 years. Does it finally happen?
Yes, we've seen them before, and yes, in terms of the 2-8 system, and that would be nice to see.
Pogba's been sitting deeper, though. Do you give? Is it possible we see these two players with the license to get forward?
We'll see it at some stage. Now, if we play 4-3-3 against Middlesbrough and it's not those two and we lose, who knows if Ralph Rangnick's going to change the system again to find something else. So let's hopefully they do play and they play well, but who knows what's going to happen with Ralph Rangnick's system. Hopefully there's some consistency in keeping the 4-3-3. But I'm sure we'll see it at some stage. Whether it works, that they might hit the ground running and be brilliant. They might be woeful. Time will tell. We'll have the evidence after the 90 minutes. But it will be interesting. Eric Bailly is obviously back now. He's someone I did want to see leave in January, but if he's back now, he's obviously been having football.
Don't like his penalty style?
Were you on that podcast with me when we discussed that with Eric Bailly?
I don't remember.
I'll bring it up. Might as well. Yes, thanks for sort of reigniting the issues I did have with Eric Bailly. The lack of professionalism for him to take a no-look penalty when your country is in need of, you're going to get knocked out of the African Cup of Nations. Think of everyone sort of praying they would win for Ivory Coast or his teammates. And look, you laugh at this, but try not to laugh. If there was no goalkeeper and Eric Bailly had a penalty, he would score, but you would have a question in the back of your mind. Think, well, hang on, maybe he won't hit the target. So if that question is there, for him to have a professional goalkeeper in front of him and to take a no-look penalty for your country, could you imagine Moscow, like Champions League final, whether it be Ronaldo? We could even question Ronaldo's stupidness for doing that stutter in Moscow and almost costing us. But could you imagine we had a penalty shootout tomorrow for the Champions League and Marcus Rashford takes a no-look penalty? That's just lack of professionalism and a lack of respect for your teammates. And ultimately, in Bailly's case, a lack of respect for his country. Man. Is that an overreaction? Because that's the way I feel. If a teammate of mine took a no-look penalty, maybe not a teammate, a centre-back who's not got good technique in the first place, if he takes a no-look penalty, it's a huge issue for me.
If you enjoy fishing, ladies and gentlemen, I baited Tom in like an absolute pro. I knew you'd bite on that one. Oh, there you go. Emad's mentioned it there. Look, I take your point on Eric, but you know what? Elon Musk is he's looking to introduce this technology called, I think it's called Neuroline. Yeah. It's like a little chip that goes into the brain and it can help people with disabilities do things a little bit easier. I would love Tim if Elon Musk can introduce technology that allows me to spend time in someone else's thought process. I would love to be inside Eric Bailly's mind. Like, I just want to know what goes through his head when he's about to do a bicycle kick in his box or about to do a no-look penalty for his country. I just don't know what he thinks sometimes, man. I don't know what he's... Is there a desire to be a highlights reel player?
I think there is. I think he plays up. I think he plays up to the cameras. I think he knows the narrative around him. I think he knows.
It's such a shame, man, because he's got talent. Pure talent-wise, as a defender, he could be honestly one of the best in the world. He really could. Yeah. He's got the defensive instinct. He's quick. He's good on the ball. He's just reckless.
Look, I don't disagree. And it's one of those ones, who knows, in a couple of weeks we might see a combination of Phil Jones and Eric Bailly lining up at centre-back. Who knows, with Maguire's form.
Has that ever happened for United?
Actually, it might have. Maybe in the first season, when Eric Bailly came in, first or second season, I'm sure there was a combination where Eric Bailly and Phil Jones probably did line up. Maybe not, but I'm sure there probably was a case of that.
Here's one for you the next time you do in trivia. Can you believe Marcus Rojo never had a red card playing for Manchester United? That is nuts. He should have had one. Mata has had a red card, but Marcus Rojo has not.
There was one game of Everton or Crystal Palace.
Studs up at left back. I remember it.
That was only one of the tackles. He should have had another 4 red cards elsewhere in the game. He was. What do you make of Marcus Rojo's time at United? Because ultimately not good enough, and yes, it needed to be sold. There is a case that there's something about those Argentinians. Like, okay, Carlos Tevez, do we love him or hate him? But we loved Tevez. Gabriel Heinze, okay, he did have the issue with flirting with Liverpool, but ultimately we did love him when he was there. Same with Marcus Rojo. He was something you could argue that he was actually a bad player. I thought he was okay when he was played centrally. I thought left back he was a bit of an issue.
As a centre back, he was good. As a left back,
centre back, I thought he was okay. But ultimately, you look at the sign and you say it's a failure. But Man United fans kind of do still like him.
He wouldn't be a failure if he wasn't injured. I think when he played at centre back, he was great. Again, good on the ball, aggressive. Look, Tom, rightly or wrongly, and I think you're the same because I know who your favourite player is. you got to love someone who's just a little bit mad. You got to love someone who's just, you just question, are they crazy? You just, they're obviously not, but you like that bit of your brain that wonders, is a little bit curious. Are they nuts? Should they be on a football pitch or in the psychiatric ward? I like that bit of me that wonders that. And that's why you love Roy Keane. It is. You know it.
He's a hell of a footballer. Yes, he did have those.
Oh, he was a hell of a footballer. I feel sorry for Roy Keane. I think he's the most. He's not the most underrated. He's the most disrespected player because he was so good, and it's his own fault too. He talked himself down. He was so good, talent-wise, unbelievable.
The argument I always use to sort of back up your point there is everyone obviously talks. I think lazily at times we talk about the Champions League semi-final in '99 at Juventus, but I think just go back and you just even have to just look at some of the photos. Just look at the photos or the team sheet of Juventus there and look at Roy Keane. Everyone knows how good Roy Keane played on the night and the situation surrounding the suspension of the Champions League final. But just go back and just look at the names. Okay, Roy Keane was the best player on that pitch. Whether you've watched the game or you haven't watched the game, that's everyone knows. Roy Keane was man of the match. He performed very well. Look at the names on the Juventus sheet. You got Didier Deschamps, Edgar Davids, Zinedine Zidane, Antonio Conte, players like that. To be the best player on that pitch, even just as a one-off, if it was Roy Keane's only good game in 30 years of football, to be the best footballer on that pitch shows an amazing quality. And Roy Keane's just simply not regarded as having that amazing quality, but that's proof that he had to have had it.
So humble too. He honestly, every time you've seen him talk, he talks himself down. He always says, "Oh yeah, of course I played well. I had Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs and David Beckham near me." Man, he's so undervalued, even by United fans. He was honestly fantastic. Completely different player to Michael Carrick. But man, if you put Roy Keane in United's midfield, I'll tell you, he solves a hell of a lot.
I'd still love it. And one, I don't know whether this be from a footballing point of view or just from a visual thing, watching from the sideline with a bucket of popcorn in my hand. I would love to see a midfield of Roy Keane and Paul Pogba. I just think it would work. I think they'll get the best out. I think it would work. I don't know socially how. Maybe I look at the Ronaldo situation. You look at picture of Ronaldo 20 years ago walking into Manchester United for the first time. Think about what he would have been doing on the training ground with the white boots, the step overs. Think of one person in that dressing room who would have hated that the most. You would think Roy Keane. So you think those two personalities, an old Irishman and a young Portuguese kid, you think those two won't get along. They're almost best friends. Roy Keane almost had the most respect out of everyone for the dressing room in regards to Ronaldo. He absolutely loved him. And I think there is a case of if Paul Pogba and Roy Keane were in the same dressing room, it's funny when you just take the sort of evidence we have from Sky Sports. However, I think it would work. It would be fascinating. It might be absolute fireworks and go tits up after 2 minutes, but I think it would work, Roy Keane and Paul Pogba.
I think it would too. And I think Roy Keane would look at his ability. And look, the thing with Paul Pogba, I think there's a strong misconception because obviously he likes to have a dance. He gets crazy hairstyles. But can we remember the guy doesn't drink? He doesn't drink. He's devoted to his training. We've never questioned his physique. He's always in good shape. Yeah, he pisses off to Dubai every time he's injured. No one at the club has told him not to. Whatever, that's how he fancies doing his rehab. I'd like to be by the beach when I'm doing my rehab.
And we'll start to wrap up things now, but Ralph Rangnick has made a point, and this was weeks ago, so this is not news, but he just mentioned that point, and not just Paul Pogba, other players do it as well. And it's just been sort of regarded as the norm where, okay, you get an injury, okay, go have a holiday and go do your rehab somewhere else, whether it be your home country or a holiday destination. And that's just been the norm over the years, and we haven't blinked an eye. That's just what happens. But Ralph Rangnick, one of the first things he's come in, I think it was the first question in regards to Paul Pogba. The first line that came out of Ralph Rangnick's mouth was saying, well, if a player's injured, they're going to be doing their rehab at Carrington now. And I thought, look, I like that, but I also think, well, the modern day player doesn't like that. Maybe they do see this as an opportunity to go and sort of do other things. I like what Ralph Rangnick said, and I agree, but it's a weird one.
I'd normally agree with you, but I think you look at United's culture at the moment, I think it needs a manager who's a bit of a leader. And, I think, can I say, and that's something we haven't, had the chance to discuss. Tom, if I go too long, just shut me up. But the thing I have to really credit Ralph Rangnick for, we criticize Solskjaer so many times for deploying 2 6s. Fred and McTominay, it doesn't work. Credit to Ralph Rangnick. Anytime something hasn't worked, he has been willing to try a change. There was one game, I can't even remember who was it against. Fred had a disastrous game, and he pulled him out for a good 3 games. He saw the 4-2-2 didn't work. He tried to persist with it. He saw it didn't work. He then tried a flat out 4-4-2. He saw that's probably too open. He's reverted a 4-3-3. I like you have to respect a manager who's willing to admit when he gets it wrong and is willing to change it that quickly. Because Solskjaer, he was willing to die on the hill for the 4-2-3-1 and the McFred.
Look, there's definitely, and I agree with that. I don't like and I know you're agreeing with me, I don't like the public admission of the mistakes. However, in regards to, yes, admitting it personally and sort of taking action, yes, you do sort of agree with it. However, and I agree, the counter argument, if I wanted to, would be, well, you'd like the manager to be patient and believe in his first thought. Okay, if he wanted 4-2-2 and he believed that was the system, if it didn't work after 2 games, just to throw it out the window, you could make a case. I'm not saying this is the case, but you could make a case as manager, you should stick to that and be strong and sort of, do you know what I mean?
No, I agree with you, but I think it was very clear we don't have the personnel to execute that game plan. Like, Bruno Fernandes is not a wide 10. He's very much a central player, so he doesn't.
In regards to our honesty,
he just doesn't have to mention every time he goes to the toilet in a press conference.
That is my issue. Look, I love his press conferences. He speaks very well. He's honest. I do like it, but yes, just he doesn't need. He's going to give you bank details at some stage.
You know how you ask someone, "Hey, how are you?" and they say, "Good, you." Or they're like, "What'd you get up to today?" Real Frantic will be the sort of guy to do. Yeah, I went to the toilet 3 times. I had a pee and I had a good lunch. Then I had a coffee. Then I had to do a number 2. I'm telling you, he'll give you the full rap sheet.
He's kind of engaging though, the way he does speak. Even if he's saying nothing, you kind of are engaged. I don't notice that. I'll be engaged with what any manager says.
Have you spoken to Ollie? Yeah, I've spoken to Ollie. He doesn't have no. I spoke to Ollie for about 1 or 2 hours. Yeah. Oh, you gotta love him.
Well, there were good photos. We brought it up last night, and we'll start to wrap up now, but we brought it up last night in regards to Solskjaer's daughter making her senior debut. We brought the photos up, but more photos have been released of Solskjaer in the stands, obviously next to his wife. And you do mention that. I think it's a good way to finish the podcast and the way we did last night, just talking about it's good to see Solskjaer happy because more photos have come out today, and out of the horrifying sort of 24, 48 hours Man United fans have had sort of with all the news surrounding the club, little things like that. And it sounds stupid, but a little thing like seeing Solskjaer smile, it does just make you feel good.
You are my Solskjaer, my only Solskjaer. You make me happy when skies are grey.
Well, one more. I haven't read it, but Emad here saying type of bloke at a bar you get stuck with and you look for someone to value out. Yeah, I think that's very much along our lines of thinking. But we do appreciate all the interaction in the comments today. Been a good episode. Obviously, this episode has gone from a Friday to a Tuesday because if we do something on Friday night, it's only a few hours before kickoff, and we do need a little bit of sleep before the 7 a.m. kickoff on Saturday morning for the FA Cup. But we do appreciate all the interaction. It has been great today. It killed an hour for us on 52 minutes, which is good. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like on the video. You're holding your phone right now. It takes 1 second. Click like. And if you are new, if you could hit subscribe, that would be great as we're trying to continue to grow the channel. Hopefully, we're providing you with some sort of level-headed chat and debate and some sensible opinions. But it's a good chat, Larry.
Yeah, mate. Been a pleasure. We'll need to start bringing the drinks back, though. I think that's poor on both of us.
Yeah. No, if anyone can send me some money and give me some motivation to go down to the bottle shop, I will. But just being a little bit lazy. Maybe, Larry, you can send me some?
Pleasure, mate. Anytime.
No worries, mate. But again, hopefully everyone did enjoy that. We do truly appreciate it. And we'll chat to you probably, it's Tuesday night. We'll probably on Thursday with maybe a FA Cup preview for the Middlesbrough match. And until then, chat to you. Have a good one, guys. Cheers.